How are you doing?
Hi. Oh, yeah.
All right, everybody, thank you so much. That's the route again, man. I got it. You president. I got it. Well,
You guys had a great to India, and then last week I was in Jamaica for a winter.
This was way for them to.
I've been. With my drive, yeah, we were in this little place, Montego Bay is in the north side, and then if you go all the way to the west, and then go south, there's the grill, and just where it turns the corner, you go down to the grill. Is that North Lake and stuff up, you know, in the water all there.
Is that, I'm not sure.
All right, Josh, are you good to go?
Stay over, I'll try to stay over here.
Yeah, look at the camera's up there.
Camera's up there. Hello, camera. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Chai Hack Night. Not sure what number, but it's a big one. It's over like 600, 700.
You can turn your mic on.
Is it not coming through? I think now it is. Now it's coming through. Everything's a little delayed here. That's all right. Well, no. So we have started our agenda for timing.
I'm sorry.
Oh, thank you. My name is Sean. I'll be one of your hosts this evening.
And my name is Sneha. I'll be one of your other hosts this evening.
Welcome. Thank you for keeping me honest. Making sure I introduce myself. So we've already started. We'll do some announcements, and then we're actually going to turn allow y'all to talk and introduce yourselves in just a minute here. Yeah, we'll go through some announcements, and then we're super excited about our presentation this evening. Which we'll hear more from in a moment. All right.
Things to know about Tech Nexus. Well, you're all here, so yay. Bathrooms are right outside the space, right over there. We have food and drinks outside in the kitchen. Please feel free to get more if you have leftovers. Help yourself after the talk is over. And we can use basically 3 offices down the hallway, and they'll have HDMI USB reconnectors. And the Wi-Fi is team working. The password is collaborate with 3. And if you forget that, it's also on the whiteboard behind you.
Awesome. Now we're gonna let y'all chat for a little bit. So I'm gonna open up for this timer. Let's just speed it up because we're a little late. Let's do 1 minute. Oh, find your neighbor, ready to go.
Sorry, I was like, so I have never met.
I love it. And like one of the things that
You can hear me clap twice. You can hear me clap 4 times.
Yeah.
I thought I heard a 5 clap once, but it's okay. We won't test you on that. Okay, now we're gonna let you talk, but in a much more organized way. So, whose first Chai Hack Night is this? Can you raise your hands? Woohoo! Welcome, everybody. Every Chai Hack Night, we go around the room and introduce ourselves, and we have a certain way we go about that. So you'll say your name, your pronouns, and 3 words about yourself. Could be any 3 words, could be something literally about you, something you ate, something, yeah, anything. So I'll kick us off. I'm sorry about that. My name is Sean. I use he, him pronouns, and my 3 words are, wow, it's cold.
It's very false. Hi, my name is Sneha. I use she, her pronouns, and my 3 words are learning about observability.
Hello, Victor, he, him, his. Let it snow.
Hi, my name is Cecilia Reyes, she, her, and my 3 words are
Amazing.
Guys, my name's Lucas. I don't know my pronoun. This is something new to me, so I'm still figuring it out. 3 word, flow, flow, flow.
Hi, my name's Ani, she, her. Words. Linux farming decentralized. Or, my bad.
No, you're good.
Hi, I'm Karen, pronouns she, her, 3 words are Colorado, bugs, wiggle.
My name's Caitlin. My pronouns are she, hers, and I guess my 3 words are ready to code. Oh.
Hi, I'm Rakesh, he, him. My 3 words are AI, legal tech, code.
My name is Tamara, pronouns are she, her, and glad you are here. That's your word. You're here.
Steve Ediger. They, them, back from the beach.
No. Jamaica.
Hi, Jamie, she, her, snowshoeing, noodles, cats.
Hi, I'm Baby, he, she, her. Any pho recommendations? Layla, she, her, music, data, books.
Hi, I'm Damon, he, him, nice sparkling water.
Hi, I'm Shane, he, him. 3 words are happy to help.
Hello, I'm Dan Snow, he, him. And I'm leaving soon.
Oh.
Jean Cochran, she, her. Sad about Dan.
Crystal Bay, she, her, or they, them, and mine are urban cognition behavior.
Should be, she, her, good lunch today.
I'm Quinn, he, him, I'm looking for a project.
Dan,
He, him, and puppy, black cat.
Edwin, he, him, wind was aggressive.
She, her, journalism, art, cats.
Ella, she, her, I love mittens.
My name is Patty Lindley, pronouns are he, him, coffee grinder shopping.
I'm Jerry, my pronouns are he, him. 3 words, I'll say tech, community, and diversity.
Andy, he, him. Lead Android testers.
Bride, he, him,
Speakers.
AI, finance, economics.
Hi, everyone. I'm Bertha. I go by she, her, hers, and slow eater me.
Hi, my name is Marines, and the 3 words, join our breakout session.
Matt Kiefer, he, him,
Data Journalism, Northwestern.
Hi, my name's Samid, he, him, and Matt Tottenham Lost.
Everybody in he, him pronouns and data education in topics.
My name is Brian. My pronouns are he, him, or am, and my 3 words are math, and anti-capitalist.
Hi, Josh Kaloff, he, him, not too much snow. A few introductions from the live stream. Nina, she, her, here to learn. Ted, he, him, first time here. Elise, she, her, college student, UIC. Joel, he, him, government technology connoisseur.
Hi, everyone. Alvin, I go by they, them, theirs pronouns. My 3 words are connect, communicate, grow.
I'm Laura. I don't know if this is on.
You're good.
But anyway, I'm Laura and she, her, and reporters are really cool. Oh, just cool.
We'll take it.
I'm Colton, he, him, and my 3 words are unprepared for snow.
Hello, my name is Andres, and my 3 words are friendly nerd community.
My name is Marilyn. My 2 words are she, they, and my 3 words are song, dance, design.
Hi, my name is Barry. My pronouns are he, him, and Caesar, and my 3 words are high on you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Cameron So, he, him, learning about learning.
Hello, my name is Jason. Pronouns are he, him, his, and squirrels, chaos, justice.
I'm hoping this mic works again. But it's on. It's quiet. Okay, awesome. Did we get everybody? Woo, awesome. All right, forward. You want to take this one?
Oh, yep, there it is.
Slow.
Yeah, well, what is Shy Hack Night? Well, you're here, so you probably have some idea, but it is a free weekly event to build, share, and learn about tools to create and support and serve the public good. Another thing to note is we are all volunteers. I'm a volunteer, Sean is volunteer, Derek is volunteer, all the board, everyone on the board of directors, can you raise your hand if you're on the board? We're all volunteers, and so we're all looking for more people to join and can learn more about that. And I think maybe one of the following slides or at our website.
Yeah, and you can get, here's some ways to get involved. Try Hack Night, Snake Hack covered a good amount. By attending our events, fantastic, you're already doing that. You can join or start a breakout group, which you'll learn about that later tonight. You can also propose a speaker. Where am I? There we go. You can also help volunteer, run the event, or if you want to join the board or be a member, or become a member when you qualify. And if you're curious what that means, you can talk to me at any time after or on Slack. Speaking of Slack, I think that I'll take this one. I got in my head out of order. Also, Shy Hack Night cannot do the things we do without our sponsors, and here are some of our very supportive sponsors. We were very grateful for them. So thank you to these organizations.
You can help. You can help keep Shy Hack Night going strong by scanning our Venmo and getting some money if you can afford to. But your support will help us pay our presenters. We give every presenter an honorarium. You can also help feed all of us and also help grow our nonprofit.
And you can, it's not up yet, but when it will go up, it'll talk about our Slack community, which you can join at this QR code. If that doesn't work, this good URL, type that into your mobile device or laptop device if you're choosing. And you can join our Slack. It's a great way to keep up to date with different breakout groups, different events we have. If you have any issues joining it, let me know. I know some people have. We're also on, we're no longer on the social media platform I won't talk about anymore, but we are on Blue Sky, so come follow us there. We'll remove that in a moment. We're also on Instagram too and LinkedIn, so please follow us there.
Follow us. Everyone who has your phone out, just take a second, to follow us, especially on Blue Sky, since we're trying to grow our presence there. But I will also add to this and say, Try Hack Night is, our events are weekly events, but it is also 100% our Slack space. We have an amazing community there. I personally have gotten a job offer through connections I've made in that channel. Everyone should join. Upcoming events. So we have 4 upcoming events coming up that are online. On the 18th, we have an election night that's members only. On the 25th, we have N4EJ presenting about the Chicago AQI tool. We have someone from Stopwatch and Mansueto presenting on March 4th. And PCs for People on the 11th. And that actually, on the 11th, that is our next in-person date. So keep posted through the website.
One quick thing before we turn it over to our presenter in a second, next week. If this is your first time tonight and you're like, I love Try Hack Night, I love the experience there, don't come next week because you're probably not a member. And it's just a weird experience. So just don't plan on coming next week, but every other week come, okay? So if you are a member, please come. If you're not sure, talk to me. Okay, I promise I'll shut up now. Now, I'd really love to welcome our presenter, Cecilia, sorry. Cecilia, thank you.
All right.
All right, one second. Actually, that's the wrong word. That's my fault. Okay.
This always happens when you want to do it live.
I know.
It works fine. This is what happened. Okay, I'm very excited to be here. I was at Try Hack Night last in 2016. This is an amazing resource. It's an amazing space. It's a great event, and I'm excited to talk to you about this investigation. Before I get started on it, I kind of want to give some general pointers. Some of you may have heard or read about eviction. There's a notice, a filing, a hearing in court, and then a judge making a determination about whether a tenant gets to stay or not. I am here to talk to you about lockouts, illegal lockouts or illegal evictions that happen outside of that legal process. They happen out of public view, and they occur when landlords take matters into their own hands and not go through that process I just mentioned. I want to play you some audio from the type of records that I reviewed for this investigation. after doing this investigation, that when landlords try these tactics, there's often little to no consequence. I mentioned at the beginning also that lockouts happen outside of the legal process of a formal eviction, and they're hard to track. To do this investigation, I reviewed documents from 8 cities across the country: Chicago, LA, Vegas. And I requested from each of them police data on 911 calls, as well as other documents, such as the calls that you heard and the videos I'll play later. Across those municipalities, I also requested housing and court complaints in order to track something that doesn't ordinarily leave a trace. What did we find? So across jurisdictions, reports of illegal lockouts were on the rise. This happened, like I said, in multiple cities, and it also happened when I looked at multiple sources. I want to tell you a little bit more about why we focused on police departments. There's 3 reasons for that. One, some states criminalize a lockout, meaning that a landlord can go to jail. It's a misdemeanor. 2, tenants are directed in some of the cities that I mentioned to call the police for help in these situations. And 3, the reality for hundreds, if not thousands of people in the various cities I looked at is that they are calling the police for help in these situations. So how do the police do? Well, we found that tenants are going to get disparate results from calling officers. For example, they might get an officer who tells them the wrong thing. In this clip I will play in a little bit. A police officer in Jersey City wrongly tells a tenant that she can be locked out of her home. In Jersey City and in Chicago, only persons like the sheriff's office can actually remove a tenant, no matter whether there has been an order entered or not. Tenant might find police is no report. This happened in 9 times out of 10 calls on average. Police just did not document their actions when people called them. And you can really see these 2 outcomes: police not being sure about how to respond, they're not being knowledgeable, police not documenting an event as a consequence of official policy, where the overarching sentiment is that police should not get involved, even in places where they are named as the department that should be getting involved to stop these. I mentioned that I requested trainings and guidance from police departments. I found that those official guidelines sometimes did not exist at all. So departments didn't have anything to give police officers who were responding and going out in the field. Other places said things like officers should only persuade people to comply with the law, as was the case in Avondale, Arizona, or to not render any aid or assistance in an official capacity. Or like I mentioned, they just didn't have they didn't have any guidelines. So police being undertrained or being told to not get involved means that a tenant's main recourse when it comes to a lockout often is to sue. This isn't really a real option. I mentioned that lockouts are illegal in most states. But there is a patchwork when it comes to what states outlaw, the consequences for those, and what tenants can stand to gain. I'm gonna let you look at the map for a little bit. Only 5 states, like New Jersey, criminalize a lockout. And in over a third of states, tenants aren't even guaranteed that they'll get back their attorney's fees if they try to sue. Another thing we found in this investigation is that it was very rare for states to have laws with special remedies, specific remedies for tenants who were experiencing a lockout. I talked to Hanisha in Atlanta. Her landlord cut her electricity on her fiance, and her then 6-month-old baby. She essentially did everything right. She called 911 to report this. She asked for police department to give her some sort of documentation. She tried to get an attorney to represent her because she could not afford one, but legal aid was overworked and wasn't able to help her. Finally, when she represented herself many times in court cases that were filed from her landlord subsequent to the eviction, she got recognition from a judge that there had been an illegal eviction, but she only got $250 as a result of that. That was not nearly enough for her to be able to find another place, to get back the losses that she had incurred when she got her lights cut off, and she was unstably unhoused for over a year. So at this point, I've been talking generally about patterns we saw across the country. I want to talk specifically about Chicago and what happens here. Sad to say, some of the patterns that I mentioned earlier about police not seeing it as their job to get involved in these cases were true in the city of Chicago as well. I do want to mention 2 key differences that Chicago had compared to other cities. One of them is that the city of Chicago in 2021 instituted a 911 category for people calling in connection to a lockout. That means that those calls are able to be tracked directly. This was not true in other cities that I looked at. Another thing that was different in Chicago, that Chicago has a local law, an ordinance, part of an ordinance, that kicks in motion a process to dissuade landlords from locking their tenants out. How does that process work? In Chicago, police officers are singled out as the agency that can arrest or issue tickets for a lockout. This is what a ticket looks like. So, piece of paper, landlord shut off tenant's electricity on April 9, 2023, leaving tenant with no power. After an officer writes a ticket, it goes to the Department of Administrative Hearings, where a city lawyer tells another lawyer who is acting as an administrative law judge, is what it's called, tells the judge why the city should be entitled to this fine, why there was a violation. Administrative hearings handles things like traffic violations as well. They also handle building code violations. And after an administrative law judge decides whether there was or not a violation of an ordinance, there can be a fine. I looked into this system by reviewing over 2 years worth of cases and found that more than half of those cases got thrown out, oftentimes without any documentation as to why. I want to give you an example of that. So in January of 2023, police actually issued a ticket to a landlord for changing the locks. 4 months after they issued that ticket, there was a hearing where the city requested that the ticket be thrown out. Nobody questioned that on the public record. There was no other documentation as to why. Except the law judge did say this when agreeing with the city to throw it out. I know you like to do certain things, landlord, but just stick to the landlord ordinance. So this landlord got off pretty much scot-free with a verbal warning. On average, hearings took less than 2 minutes to be resolved in Chicago. And they happened over a month after the lockout had been ticketed. That means that a tenant is not going to get recourse from this system. Does it work to dissuade landlords? When I looked at all of the 911 calls that the city of Chicago has labeled as a lockout from the time they started tracking it to about March of 2023, I found that there were very few tickets. 70 or so tickets were made by police, so police don't often ticket. And out of those, only a few ended up in a fine being issued. I think it was 7 were found liable, there were 15 that were just defaults. And so all that is to say that over this time period where Chicago first introduced this category through March of 2023, only about one 911 call out of 140 ended up in a fine. To me, that signals that that process is not working to dissuade landlords. So at this point, and when I was practicing this talk, I was given feedback that, can you end on something more hopeful? So as part of this investigation, I did look at several other places that had different systems to address lockouts. I want to tell you about one in particular, not because it was amazing, but because the odds were a lot better for a tenant. The odds were a coin flip, 50-50, but that's a lot better than 1 in 140. So Texas has this law, spells it out in its statutes, that if a tenant is wrongfully evicted, that includes getting locked out or having their utilities shut off, they can then go to the courts and request on that very same day that they get seen by a judge who has the power to order them back into their house, a judge who has the power to say, landlord, if you haven't complied with my order, there are going to be consequences for you. And they can do this fast. It doesn't take a month to 4 months, as I mentioned in my example. And it means that a tenant is not relying on someone like a police officer who hasn't received much training, who doesn't think that he should be getting involved to resolve the situation. This is an example from a petition that was filed by a tenant in Houston, in Texas. They did this without a lawyer. They wrote when they were locked out. They wrote what happened. In this case, they had sentimental belongings. They don't have clothing. And And that very same day, I believe, or shortly after, they were given an order by a judge that got them back into their homes. And that order is being acted upon by people who have the capacity to circle back to landlords and see if they actually did it or not. No, 50-50, but better than what Chicago, in my opinion. Cool. You can find the stories that I showed by going to my bio page at Business Insider. You can also see on Contact Me. There was another story that I didn't really mention that focused specifically on people who are unstably unhoused, who are in places like motels or rooming houses, and how they're particularly vulnerable to getting locked out. Questions, please.
Let's give a round of applause. Super stellar. I wish this worked better. This is, okay. This will be the Q&A microphones for the audience, because I definitely want the people in the live stream to make sure they hear us. So if this just goes out randomly, just scream. All right, who has a question for our presenter?
Thank you. I'm curious, who are the main organizations, or what types of organizations are helping folks out in these instances? I think you pointed to some places folks are going in the moment. At the policy level, I'm wondering, like, how does this issue move forward?
Great question. I think there are many ways to get involved. One of them would be to lobby for actual changes to a state law that would spell a process like the one in Texas for people in Chicago that doesn't require the police to get involved. That's a tall order to change a law or to introduce a new one. I did talk to tenant organizers who were in LA, in Chicago as well, who would consider whether to break tenants back into their homes themselves. This is risky to do. And part of why they were thinking about it is that they noticed that once the police responded, whoever was inside the house was generally the person who got to stay. So because there's this disposition of we're not gonna get involved, whatever happens, happens, if the tenant was back into their home, then at least there was that. So tenant organizers definitely were getting involved on the ground to solve the immediacy of getting locked out. I do think they have advocated for things like adding another process to handle this. Those are the main two that I can think of. I think, the administrative hearings that I mentioned, they're open to the public. Like I went, anybody can go and actually see these play out.
Thanks, great reporting, by the way. So why do they take it so infrequently? What are some reasons that came up in your investigation?
The main one that comes to mind is this mindset of this is not our job. Even when it is their job, even when there is a local law that says police, ticket, after there's an infraction. There was a training video where the Metropolitan Tenants Organization and the superintendent at the time in Chicago got up in front of a podium and said, officers think that they shouldn't be getting involved in these situations, but actually in an illegal lockout, they can and should get involved. So I think part of it is lack of training, to be honest. That bore out when I when I looked into some of these tickets and what the police response had been. I do want to mention something that I didn't talk about in my talk. So as I was reporting this, there was like a big move towards passing squatter laws. And those laws would have allowed, or have allowed actually, because some passed, would have allowed police to, when they get called to these situations by a landlord who says, this person is a squatter, for them to remove that person. And so I think, you know, there is some ideology about, well, the property owner owns a home and so, you know, they should have final say. I think that is also at play, to be honest, when it comes to whether there will be action like a ticket or not.
Yeah, hi, really excellent presentation and reporting. My question is about like getting access to the data. Seems like you're like different cities and these are all great stories. It seems like you came to these stories like through a database or something. I wonder if you could say a little bit about the investigative process.
Yeah, so the thing that took the longest, to be honest, was getting that police data. So I knew from my experience in Chicago that police officers were involved in lockouts. In some other cities, I had a hunch, like I think people are calling the police because they're getting directed to them or because they're supposed to enforce, like in LA. But when I requested records, that was the biggest hurdle. I filed freedom of information requests that anybody can file here. And I asked for data on 911 calls. I had to talk to departments for a while over whether they had calls at all. Like in Atlanta, for example, at first they were like, we don't get involved in that. So we only have 13 of them. And I was like, are you sure? Over like 3 years. And so then they looked and then they found thousands of calls. So the reporting process involved some back and forth with getting this information from departments that thought didn't have any. The other thing that was difficult about it was trying different sources. And I did rely on filing these public records requests to be able to get my hands on housing complaints, for example. When it came to the court data, yeah, I mean, it was also about calling people and saying, hey, this, you may not want to give it to me via FOIA, but like it's in the public interest and I think you probably have something. So, I mean, yeah, it was a very records heavy investigation and project, and it did rely on data only because I really wanted to try to track how often these happened. It's difficult because they're not, you know, it's not like evictions, for example. Even those are hard to track. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if this answers your question. It was very data heavy. It involved requesting a bunch of stuff that took a long time. Yeah.
Thank you very much for this talk. This is great. You talked about the law, or specifically the incident in Houston. I've always understood Texas to be more of a landlord-friendly state as opposed to tenant-friendly state. Do you know, it seems like kind of an oddity to have that exist and not just be like a Harris County thing as opposed to like a Texas-wide thing. Do you know why that is their basis? Did you get to the base of why that is there, which seems like sort of an anomaly for the state?
It does seem curious, huh?
Yeah, like is there some book I'm missing or something like that?
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. I'm not sure is the short answer to that. Why do they have this remedy for people in Texas? I'm not sure. It is a state full of contradictions. I asked lawyers about it. They said that's Texas for you. I mean, they're
It tracks
not
very well.
really looking at others to think about, what to model things after. Like, I would mention Chicago or these other places, and they would be like, that's not gonna go anywhere within Texas, like, they don't care. So the short answer is that I don't know. That part of the law, when I looked into it, I believe dated back to early 2000s. So it really could have been, the one, it's fairly new, if I'm remembering this correctly. But I do think it was a response to probably like very effective organizing, like tenant advocate organizing around this. I do want to mention there is a similar system that I looked into in Nevada as well. It doesn't work like Texas. It has other issues with it. But there are examples out there, and I'm not sure exactly how they came to be part of the law, only that they're few and far between.
Thank you very much.
We got a couple questions from the live stream. The first one, was wondering, basically about, Business Insider, covering this, like, is that what was involved with kind of being able to cover, working on this type of story?
I'm not sure I understand that question very well. Why did Business Insider get interested in this?
They're saying that's not a typical issue that they cover.
I see. I think this story is relevant to business in a way. There is money changing hands. There is a dynamic at play, an unbalanced dynamic, I would say, but it exists. For the story, I also, I didn't really get into this too much, but the story does talk about corporate landlords and what we were able to find there, like big landlords who should know better, right? So, I think, my editors were certainly interested in it. I was interested in it, and they believed in the story. And I think it was very interesting for people to read on the Business Insider website.
And the second question, from the chat is, can you share about the methodology for data processing, 40,000 plus records? Specifically, how did you track all the FOIA requests and the responses?
I'll be very specific on that with tools. I use Obsidian. I like it a lot. It's not like Notion because it exists locally. I love having it in my computer. It has built-in capabilities to remind me to check in with people about requests and things like that. I use that to organize all of the requests. I used Excel for spreadsheets that were manageable, R to clean them, some Python. They were fairly straightforward. R, Obsidian, love Obsidian, Excel.
So,
It's just quiet.
yeah, my question is about, in terms of policy, if you think that, and I know you have to maintain some kind of balance in your opinions and that, but it seems that though this would be like a basic human right, and if you are looking at it from that standpoint, does it make sense to have some kind of federal? It seems like there's all these local ordinances. Would it make sense to have federal standards? Do you have any ideas about that? And what's your thought?
Yeah, the story does come pretty hard on this. Part of why the system doesn't work for tenants is that there's no overarching guideline for it. So there were attempts to bring this to a federal level, especially during the onset of the COVID pandemic. those, did not really go anywhere. They stalled. So yeah, I mean, definitely, I think that there is room for better standardization of this. I mean, at one point, we mentioned this in the stories, but the right to due process is fundamental to this country. It was based on like laws from the UK, like there's a seminal work that is the basis of certain, thoughts of law that says a landlord trying to remove somebody by force is not a good idea, essentially. So this is not new in that sense. It hasn't been right to remove people from their home with no notice for quite a long time. And yeah, I would think that that is something that the federal government would want to codify.
Probably have time for 2 or 3 more questions, so.
It's not. Why do lockouts happen and is there a pattern?
Why do they happen? I don't know. Let me tell you what I thought. I thought that when I talked to landlords about this, because I contacted every single landlord we named in the story, I thought they were gonna say things like, well, there have been backups in the courts or things like that. But really what happened is that every time that I talked to them, they just had a different version of events. They just said, I didn't break the law. I turned off the electricity on my tenant, but I didn't break the law. This judge says you did. Different version of events. To me, that highlights the importance of having a third party involved in this process, especially when it comes to something as important as having a home or not. That's really the best I can tell you as to why it happens. And in terms of patterns about what?
Patterns about why it happens across the country, why it happens in cities.
Demographic.
Because it's like if we can solve the issue of what causes it to happen.
Yeah, patterns. I mean, I will reiterate how difficult it is to pin down when a lockout happens. I think that is clear. Because it is so difficult, it's hard for me to pinpoint exactly what those patterns may have been. I think to your question about, well, once we know more patterns, maybe we can fix this. I think there's a step before that involves, let's make sure that we're tracking this and that we know what we're talking about. Because most places, like I mentioned, other than Chicago, didn't have a code for this. So let's make sure that we track this so that we can see what those patterns are, what those outcomes are. I can tell you what I saw from that 911 data and how it didn't end in a report. And I can tell you what I saw from those individual police officers who seemed unsure about what to do. But unless we're actually directly tracking this and seeing what is the outcome of these, I don't think we're gonna have a clear understanding of the patterns.
Thank you.
Yeah, no,
When you were first launching on this, how wide did you cast your net? How many cities were you foiling? Were you doing one in every state? And then how did you decide which ones to narrow in on and really focus on?
Yeah, so this started very small, actually. This started here in Chicago. I was a local reporter at the Chicago Tribune. That's why I was hearing from tenant organizers, like during the early onset of the pandemic, that these evictions were happening and they were happening off the books. And I knew how it worked in Chicago. There's this ordinance, there's this process. And so I thought, gonna be easy to look at other cities. I bet it works like that too. And quickly realized that was not the case. Because we didn't want to Well, not that we didn't want to. If I could, I would do this for every like major city across the country, not just 8. New York City, we didn't include because there had been a really great report from the city, a nonprofit that had covered this topic, found very similar things. But we did decide to narrow in fairly early on, and the parameters were a high percentage of renters with a cap on the number of them to not count like college town, for example, that have a lot of renters. And then also places with quote unquote hot markets. That was based on conversations I had with people about the patterns that they had seen from large landlords, for example, doing this, and what was known about landlords going around the law, doing things that they shouldn't be, or potentially doing those things. So from early on, we started with a pretty narrow focus.
Did you think that any of those initial phone calls to 911 resulted in the landlord opening the door? Because there was a lot of phone calls and very few tickets, right? So I was wondering if sometimes the landlord just opened the door.
Yeah, it's absolutely possible that one of the undocumented outcomes was that, police showed up and they said, hey, you can't do this, you better let them in. They did, and that was the end of it. In Chicago, police are still supposed to write a ticket, even when that happens, actually. But it is possible that occurred. I just have very little information about whether they did.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's curious.
Hi. Thank you for putting this all together. It's definitely a lot of work. In terms of, you said that at the federal level that any kind of push forward fizzled out. What I'm wondering is, in terms of push forward with this work put together, what you or members of your team could see as maybe, because it's highlighting a gap that isn't there and service in terms of serving tenants. And I'm wondering if there's any experimental or exploratory routes forward that you could envision from what's put together, because it's here now, the work is here now, and it's good work for working forward to make sure that it doesn't happen as much in the long run. So any exploratory, what do you see the future of this going towards?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the feedback that I received from my sources and people interested was that it was a good step towards getting an understanding about this nationwide. They they were interested in taking those smaller steps to try to document this further so that it is possible to have an even better idea of what is going on. Things like requiring all police departments to have a classification whenever somebody calls 911 about it. I think that would go quite a long ways. So I think, that's part of what people are focused on. Another thing that I came across after the stories came out were local groups interested in getting more involved whenever tenants would call them when they were experiencing a lockout. So a lot of more focused, like mutual aid organizations and things like that. We're taking a look at this. That's really the main thing I can think of. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all the time we have for questions. Thank you. All right. Wow, I'm so spacey right now. Next is breakout groups. Couldn't even remember that word. So if you are a breakout group leader, please file some sort of orderly shape out here. And if you're not sure what that means you stay put. So while we're kind of doing all this stuff, what's a breakout group? A breakout group at Chi Hack Night means essentially like a working group or a learning group. So a lot of the things you'll hear tonight are people who maybe are working on a particular project, or maybe it's like multiple projects underneath a theme. You'll kind of get the gist in a minute. Oh, perfect. We're gonna have Victor come on down and tell us about his breakout group.
Oh, you gotta do the thing.
I gotta do the thing. I'm just not on it right now. Sorry. Hold on.
Hello, I'm here for the climate change breakout group. We are a general working group about climate change. So if there's a project that we're not doing that you're interested in doing, you can come ahead and join us as well. But right now, we're working on a project called Electrify Chicago, which looks at open data about Chicago building emissions and looks to map buildings that are really polluting and help organize those for folks who are interested in making buildings better. So we work in Gridsim, which is a Vue.js static site generation framework, and a lot of work in Python doing data analysis with pandas and other fun tools. So if you're interested, come join us in the cafeteria. We are 12 penguins.
Hi, everyone. I'm Derek Eater. Sorry, I missed the intros. Derek Eater, EM. I have breakout. So my breakout is protecting communities. It's essentially, it's still kind of a discussion group, but it's reacting to all of the communities that are under threat by the new company making. So we have some ideas about some initial ideas for applications, looking at some of the potential funding cuts and their impacts in Illinois. So if anybody is interested in that, or just commiserating about what's going on, that's us. We will be number 6, and I think we usually stay in this room, so we'll be in this room. That's it.
Items. It's good. It's just weak. It's on.
No, it was off.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Blame Derek.
Sorry.
Well,
I hear you
it's,
anyway.
it's also blinking red. Hello.
It'll turn on.
There we go. Steve, I am with Chi Commons, number 16, Little Kitty Cats. And we are a worker-owned co-op, but we moonlight at Chi Hack Night as a couple of breakout groups. One is our map of cooperatives in the solidarity economy in the Chicago region. And we're working on that. And the other is our block share program. In our block share program, we're trying to begin providing third or last mile internet service to communities. And in those communities, put a server in each of those communities so that the co-op members that join and get that internet service can also help organize their community. So we'll be meeting down the hall here in the corner room, and please come and join us.
Which one are you doing?
Quantify justice news.
Quantify. There we go.
Where?
The old ones.
We are working old ones.
Your breakout groups in 2nd grade.
It's good. Sometimes I feel like I'm in 2nd grade, so it works. Hello, I'm Michael. I will be 23 drums, and yeah, I said we're Quantify Justice News. We've been around for several years. We are scraping kind of all the main media sources throughout Chicago with the goal of maybe someday looking to see how the media landscape in Chicago is covering crime compared to where crime is actually happening in Chicago, to see where the media might be under or over-reporting certain crimes in certain areas. So we're working towards that goal, but right now we're having AWS issues and Python issues. So we're trying to update from Python 3.6 to 3.8. So if you want to help with that or help with the AWS infrastructure stuff that is happening, you can find us with 23 drums. And I would say there are 1 or 2 people, I don't know if they're here tonight or not, who are also kind of poking around with the data to see what we might be able to do with the data. as well. So if you are interested more on the data side, you can also find us. I don't know if I'll be able to talk too much about that side of things though, but thanks.
Hello, everyone. We're here with investigative reporters and editors. We did a lot of investigative work, data work. Thank you for your presentation. It was incredible. So we are hoping to do a conversation about civic engagement and then also data journalism. So if you're interested in those areas, on the shelf.
What's your number and
Oh,
item? 9 fish. 9 fish. Sorry, you gotta say both. No, just
thank
kidding.
you.
Go to that one, they're pros.
Endorse. Do we have any other last minute breakout groups? Anyone wants to start? That's your.
Yeah, there's no rules. You know, if you're like, I'm working on this, share it with us. Oops. Well, I think that's it. I'll take
Before we wrap up.
1 second, sorry, Sneha. If you're new to Shy Hack Night and you're like, what the heck is going on? Come find me. I will do my best to help. I am 20 bees. Bees, okay? Come find me. Anyway, now.
Oh yeah, before we wrap up, I just wanted to take a second to recognize someone who's very special to the Shy Hack Night community. You may have caught at the beginning that next week is our election night, and Sean here is our outgoing president. So just wanted to give a round of applause for Sean. Our board got together, over a year ago, and we set term limits for the president, and Sean has been really inspiring to see you just take the pitchfork from Derek and carry the torch forward, and I'm just really inspired, and so.
Thank you.
I know Vienna's somewhere here, we also just wrote a card.
That's so sweet.
Again, I'm the first president, so Sean's the second president. I want to reiterate everything that Stan said. Sean, we really appreciate all you've done for this organization, for this community. We really wouldn't be where we are without you. So again, just thank you for all you've done. We're a volunteer organization, and sometimes it feels like a job. And Sean he's handled it so well over the last couple of years. So thank you again. We will let you know who the next president is next week.
Figure it out.
All right, that's all. Anything else? Okay.
Sean, do you want to do the honors?
Yes, our tradition.
Yeah, I'll just scream. You can have one. All right, so before we send you all off, if it's your first time, we have a little hokey saying. We say, okay, so on the count of 3, we're gonna say go forth and hack. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Go forth and hack!